Every family faces challenges. From the struggles of parenting to the complexities of marriage, it can sometimes feel like the weight of the world is on our shoulders. But what if I told you that restoration and unity are within reach? In today's video, we'll journey with the Johnson family as they navigate the stormy waters of marital issues and the trials of raising teenagers. Together, they'll discover the transformative power of love, forgiveness, and prayer. Join us as we explore how to pray for family restoration and unity, and learn how to build a stronger, more connected family. Because no matter how tough the road may seem, there is always hope for a brighter tomorrow. Let's dive into this story and discover the steps to healing and togetherness that can change everything. Chapter 1. The Storm Before the Calm. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the Johnson household. Inside, however, the atmosphere was anything but warm. Sarah Johnson sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped tightly around a steaming mug of coffee, staring blankly at the wall. The remnants of dinner lay scattered across the table, untouched. Her husband, Mark, paced back and forth in the living room, his brow furrowed with frustration. "Sarah, we can't keep doing this," Mark said, his voice rising slightly. "We need to talk about the kids. They're out of control." Sarah sighed, feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders. "I know, Mark, but yelling at them isn't helping. It's only pushing them further away." Mark stopped pacing and turned to face her. "What do you suggest we do then? Just sit back and watch them make poor choices? They need discipline, and they need it now." The tension in the room was palpable. Their teenage children, Emily and Jake, had been acting out lately, skipping school, staying out late, and ignoring their parents' rules. It felt like a storm was brewing, and Sarah and Mark were caught in the middle of it. "Maybe we should try to understand what they're going through," Sarah suggested, her voice softening. "They're at an age where everything feels overwhelming. We need to be their support, not their enemies." Mark ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in his posture. "I get that, but we also need to set boundaries. If we don't, they'll think they can do whatever they want." As they continued to argue, the words of Ephesians chapter 4 verse 3 echoed in Sarah's mind. "Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace." She knew they needed to find common ground, but the anger and hurt felt insurmountable. Chapter 2. The Turning Point. The following morning, Sarah woke up early, determined to find a way to bridge the gap between her and Mark. She brewed a fresh pot of coffee and sat down with her Bible, seeking guidance. As she flipped through the pages, her eyes landed on Colossians chapter 3 verse 13-14. "Bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you." Tears filled her eyes as she realized that forgiveness was essential, not just for her children but for her marriage as well. She needed to forgive Mark for his harsh words and frustration, and he needed to forgive her for not being as proactive in discipline as he wanted. Later that day, Sarah approached Mark as he sat on the couch, scrolling through his phone. "Can we talk?" she asked gently. Mark looked up, surprise flickering across his face. "Sure, what's on your mind?" "I've been thinking about our approach with the kids," Sarah began. "I know we both want what's best for them, but maybe we need to work together instead of against each other." Mark nodded slowly, his expression softening. "I agree. I just feel so helpless sometimes. I don't want to lose them." "Neither do I," Sarah replied, her heart aching for the family they once were. "Let's pray together for guidance. We need God's wisdom in this." They bowed their heads, and Sarah led the prayer, asking God to help them find unity and understanding. As they prayed, she felt a sense of peace wash over her, reminding her of Philippians chapter 2 verse 2. "Then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and of one mind." Chapter 3. The family meeting. That weekend, Sarah and Mark decided to hold a family meeting. They gathered Emily and Jake in the living room, the tension still lingering in the air. The kids exchanged glances, unsure of what to expect. "Hey, guys," Mark started, his voice steady but gentle. "We wanted to talk about some things that have been going on lately." Emily crossed her arms, a defensive posture that made Sarah's heart sink. "What's there to talk about? You're just going to lecture us again." "Actually, we want to listen," Sarah interjected, hoping to diffuse the situation. "We want to understand what you're feeling and how we can help." Jake shrugged, looking disinterested. You wouldn't understand. Try us, Mark said, his tone firm but not harsh. We're here for you, and we want to support you. But we also need to set some boundaries. As the conversation unfolded, the kids began to open up about their struggles, pressure from school, feeling overwhelmed by expectations, and the desire for independence. Sarah and Mark listened intently, their hearts aching for their children. Emily, we know you're under a lot of pressure, Sarah said softly. But skipping school isn't the answer. We want to help you find a better way to cope. Emily looked down, her defenses slowly crumbling. I just feel like I can't keep up. It's too much. Mark exchanged a glance with Sarah, and they both felt the weight of their daughter's words. We're here to help you, Em, he said. We can work together to find a solution. Chapter 4, Building Bridges. Over the next few weeks, the Johnson family began to implement changes. They set aside time each week for family activities, whether it was game night, movie night, or simply cooking dinner together. They also established open lines of communication, encouraging Emily and Jake to share their thoughts and feelings without fear of judgment. One evening, as they sat around the dinner table, Sarah felt a sense of warmth and connection that had been missing for so long. I'm really proud of how we're working together as a family, she said, smiling at her children. Yeah, it's nice to actually talk, Jake admitted, surprising everyone. I didn't think you guys would listen, Mark chuckled. We're learning, too. It's not just about discipline, it's about understanding each other. As they continued to bond, Sarah and Mark also made a conscious effort to pray together regularly. They found comfort in the words of Romans chapter 15 verse 5-6. May the God who gives endurance and encouragement give you the same attitude of mind toward each other that Christ Jesus had. Chapter 5. The Test of Faith. Just as things seemed to be improving, a new challenge arose. Emily came home one afternoon, visibly upset. I failed my math test, she said, tears streaming down her face. I'm going to get grounded for sure. Mark and Sarah exchanged worried glances. Emily, we're here for you, Sarah said, moving closer to her daughter. Let's talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. Emily shouted, frustration boiling over. You don't understand how hard it is. Mark took a deep breath, remembering the lessons they had learned about patience and understanding. You're right, we don't know exactly what you're going through, but we want to help you figure it out. As they navigated the conversation, Sarah felt the urge to pray. Can we take a moment to pray together? She asked gently. Emily hesitated but eventually nodded. They bowed their heads, and Sarah led the prayer, asking God for wisdom and guidance. As they prayed, Emily felt a sense of peace wash over her, reminding her of the promise in Jeremiah chapter 29 verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Chapter 6. The Power of Forgiveness. As the weeks turned into months, the Johnson family continued to grow closer. They faced challenges together, learning to communicate openly and honestly. However, one evening, Mark and Sarah found themselves in a heated argument about discipline again. I just don't think you're being strict enough with them, Mark said, frustration creeping into his voice. They need to understand that actions have consequences, and I don't think yelling is the answer, Sarah countered, her heart racing. We need to show them love and understanding, not fear. As the argument escalated, Sarah felt the familiar pang of hurt and anger. But then she remembered the words of 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 8. Finally, all of you, be like-minded, be sympathetic, love one another, be compassionate and humble. Taking a deep breath, she softened her tone. Mark, I know we both want what's best for our kids. But we need to work together, not against each other. Mark paused, the tension in his shoulders easing. You're right, I'm sorry for raising my voice. I just want to protect them. I know, Sarah replied, reaching for his hand. And I want to support them. Let's pray together for guidance. They bowed their heads, and as they prayed, Sarah felt the weight of their argument lift. She realized that forgiveness was essential, not just for their children but for their marriage as well. Chapter 7. A New Beginning. With renewed commitment, the Johnson family continued to grow in love and understanding. They established family traditions, such as weekly game nights and monthly outings, creating lasting memories together. One evening, as they gathered around the table for dinner, Mark looked at his family with gratitude. I just want to say how proud I am of all of you, he said, his voice filled with emotion. We've come a long way together. Emily smiled, her eyes shining with appreciation. Thanks, Dad. I feel like we're actually a family again. Jake nodded in agreement. Yeah, it's nice to talk and not feel judged. As they shared laughter and stories, Sarah felt a sense of peace wash over her. She remembered the words of Psalm chapter 133 verse 1. How good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. Chapter 8. The test of time. However, just as they settled into their new routine, life threw another curveball. Mark received news that his job was downsizing, and he might be laid off. The weight of uncertainty hung heavy in the air. Mark, we'll get through this together, Sarah said, trying to reassure him. We've faced challenges before, and we can face this one too. I know, but it's hard not to worry, Mark admitted, his voice trembling. What if I can't find another job? As they navigated this new challenge, Sarah felt the urge to pray. Let's take a moment to pray together, she suggested, her heart heavy with concern. They bowed their heads, and Sarah led the prayer, asking God for peace and guidance during this uncertain time. As they prayed, she felt a sense of calm wash over her, reminding her of the promise in Isaiah chapter 41 verse 10. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. Chapter 9. The Power of Community. In the weeks that followed, Mark faced numerous interviews and rejections. The stress began to take a toll on him, and Sarah noticed the change in his demeanor. He was more withdrawn, and the weight of worry hung heavy on his shoulders. Mark, can we talk? Sarah asked one evening as they sat on the couch together. Sure, he replied, his voice distant. I know this is a tough time for you, but I want you to know that you're not alone in this, Sarah said gently. We're a team, and we'll get through this together. Mark looked at her, his eyes filled with gratitude. I appreciate that, Sarah. I just feel so overwhelmed. Let's reach out to our church community for support, Sarah suggested. We can ask for prayer and encouragement. We don't have to carry this burden alone. Mark nodded, realizing the truth in her words. They reached out to their church family, sharing their struggles and asking for prayer. The response was overwhelming, with friends and fellow church members rallying around them, offering support, meals, and encouragement. Chapter 10. The Light at the End of the Tunnel. As the weeks turned into months, Mark continued to search for a new job. The uncertainty was challenging, but the support from their community provided comfort and strength. They prayed together regularly, seeking God's guidance and trusting in His plan. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, Mark received a phone call. Hello, he answered, his heart racing. After a few moments, a smile broke across his face. Yes, thank you so much. I can't wait to start. Sarah's heart soared as she realized what had just happened. You got the job? She exclaimed, jumping up to hug him. Mark nodded, tears of joy streaming down his face. I did. I can't believe it. As they celebrated together, Sarah felt a renewed sense of hope and gratitude. They had weathered the storm together, and their family was stronger for it. Chapter 11. A New Chapter. With Mark's new job came a fresh start for the Johnson family. They continued to prioritize open communication, love, and understanding. The challenges they faced had brought them closer together, and they were determined to keep that bond strong. One evening, as they gathered around the dinner table, Sarah looked at her family with a heart full of gratitude. I just want to say how proud I am of all of you, she said, her voice filled with emotion. We've come so far together, and I believe our best days are still ahead. Emily smiled, her eyes shining with appreciation. Thanks, Mom. I feel like we're actually a family again. Jake nodded in agreement. Yeah, it's nice to talk and not feel judged. As they shared laughter and stories, Sarah felt a sense of peace wash over her. She remembered the words of Psalm chapter 133 verse 1. How good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. Chapter 12. The Legacy of Love. As the years passed, the Johnson family continued to grow in love and unity. They faced new challenges, but they approached each one with the strength and support they had built together. Their bond was unshakable, rooted in love, forgiveness, and faith. One day, as Sarah and Mark sat on the porch, watching their children play in the yard, Sarah turned to Mark with a smile. Can you believe how far we've come? Mark nodded, his heart swelling with pride. I'm so grateful for our family. We've been through so much, but we've always come out stronger. As they reflected on their journey, they realized that their commitment to prayer, forgiveness, and open communication had transformed their family. They had learned to lean on each other and trust in God's plan, no matter the circumstances. Epilogue: The Power of Prayer. Years later, as they gathered for a family reunion, Sarah looked around at her children and their families. The love and unity that had been forged through trials and challenges were evident in every smile and laughter shared. Let's take a moment to pray, Sarah suggested, her heart full of gratitude. They bowed their heads, and Sarah led the prayer, thanking God for his faithfulness and the restoration of their family. As they finished, Mark looked at their children and smiled. Remember, no matter what life throws at us, we're in this together. We'll always be a family. And with that, the Johnson family continued to thrive, united in love, faith, and the knowledge that God was always in control. As we've seen today, the journey to family restoration and unity is not always easy, but it is always worth it. The Johnson family learned that through open communication, forgiveness, and the power of prayer, they could overcome their challenges and grow closer together. Remember, every family faces struggles, but with love and commitment, healing is possible. Whether you're dealing with marital issues, parenting challenges, or simply seeking to strengthen your family bonds, know that you are not alone. We encourage you to take the lessons from the Johnson family and apply them in your own lives. Pray together, communicate openly, and always strive for understanding and compassion. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who might need encouragement, and subscribe for more inspiring content. Let's continue this journey together, supporting one another as we seek to build stronger, more loving families. Thank you for watching, and remember, with God at the center of your family, there is always hope for restoration and unity. Until next time, stay blessed.